Hey y'all, it's your girl Ronnika with the Please Do Tell podcast, and we are back with another episode in the series of What's Your Why? I am so excited to have our next guest here today. I'm not even going to introduce her. She's going to introduce herself. But just know, we got stories.
We got stories.
We got like late teens, early 20s stories. You know what I'm
Lord.
saying? Yeah, we do. So go ahead, girl.
Oh, Lord. Hi, everyone. Ronnika. It's so good to be here with you. Oh, my God.
Yes.
So I'm Jomil Bell. I will tell you who I am today, since we'll go back in time to talk about who I was, so you don't judge me.
Ain't no judgment over here now.
But I am a executive project management professional with 15 years of experience building businesses. I'm currently the CEO of Hive Over Matter and a professional life coach for Black women in leadership and their teams. And so I consult and I go in and help them to design systems and workflows and project management solutions to scale their growth. So that is what I do. I love women, particularly Black women, and I love our growth and really providing resources and support so that we can stay connected and, you know, just live life, love, and wealth and health. Like, that is what it's about. So that is who I am. And I'm so happy to be here with you in particular because we have been friends for...
Oh, gosh.
About 15 of those years.
Yeah. Yes, about 15.
Pretty long time. And life just winds us around and kind of takes us in our own places. And it's so good to see you doing what you're doing and just be back. So I'm honored to be here.
Girl, you came out swinging.
Come on.
Okay.
Bop, batter up.
So, girl, okay. So... within this series, we introduced this new segment of At the Playground, and that's simply because it was 3 years of elementary school. I had no recess.
Okay.
And so I feel like at the playground is where you have the best stories. You're on the swings, you're meeting your friends, y'all chit-chatting. I mean, that's when I feel like those real friendships are birthed through stories and playtime.
Yes.
So, if you can think about a story or a time in your life that is like, whoo, child, that really, that shaped me into who I am today. What is that story, girl? I need it.
It was the setup for me. Okay, so there's two actually that come to mind from the playground, things that shaped me. I think that if I were to just reach back and say, oh, okay, those were defining characteristics that are still in full use today. Mm-hmm. One, so I went to elementary school in Bolingbrook, Illinois. It's a Chicago suburb.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we moved to Kalamazoo in high school.
Okay.
And so, so that's a whole other story. So anyway, so it was still bitter cold, and I was a crossing guard in the 5th grade.
Oh, this is going to be good.
I was a crossing guard in the 5th grade, and I would help all the people to cross, safely from one side of the street to the other. And I took my job very seriously. Wanted to make sure everyone was safe and sound and on their way with due diligence, okay? But I also felt like I worked hard. I should be able to play hard. And it just so happened to have some ice on the ground. And so all of the kids were gone, and I was doing my sliding skating thing, and I was just like, ooh, figure 8. I could be an Olympian. Yeah. But I wasn't, and I fell. I was the perfect example of why you should be following these rules. See, what happens in life is we can show somebody how to do a thing and be like, you know what, I'm not going to take my own advice. I learned at that moment to start taking my own advice. That was a good lesson for me, because sis got stitches right across here. Yes, I did. And so that shaped me, right? Like, so like having fun is important, but also taking care of yourself matters. So another one that comes to mind, and I think this kind of like has been like part of my advocacy. Like I've been working in advocacy for a really, really, really long time. I'm not, I used to be a community organizer, and now the way that I work in advocacy is helping Black women to advocate for themselves, not to write ourselves out of our own story, and how to take care of ourselves and things like that. Mm-hmm. But it's interesting because like as a child, I really didn't like playing the dozens. You remember that?
You didn't?
I didn't. I didn't. I mean, it was funny when it was funny. I can laugh when I can't not laugh if it's funny. But I also, you know, I grew up in a big family, and we were taught to take care of each other and hold each other down. And you know, they would go in, and I just was never good at it. I just didn't have the heart for it. And so I didn't like it when people got picked on.
Okay. I get that.
You know, I just did it. Okay. And so I remember this one little girl, and I was always tall when I was younger. And this one little girl, she was not, but she was so sweet. And these kids were picking on her, and I hated it. And you know, you kind of try to mind your business because your mom says mind your business. Yeah. And I tried to mind my business, but I just really didn't like seeing the injustice and just seeing it over and over again. And so I had to stand up for her. And at the end of the day, they weren't going to say anything to me because you can't whoop me. They just, so what you going to do because you can't whoop me?
What are you doing today?
And so I had to hold her down. And I did. And over the course of time, like, you know, she would speak up for herself. But at the end of the day, like, I think I probably just became known of just being a bully's bully. Like, don't come bringing that negative energy in my space because I'm not here for it.
Yeah.
So those are two things that have shaped me from the playground. I'm mad at you for making me remember those things. I blocked both of those out of my mind until this very moment.
When I say the dozens, like I learned how to play the dozens because I was bullied. So I had to learn how to hang with the ones that were saying such things.
You had to clap back.
Yeah. Early.
And not late.
And even like now when I run into people, even from college, like running into Dewberry, and he said, you can still hang with the dudes, man. When it comes to talking junk, you can still hang with the guys. I said, well, I've learned from some of the best. So, I mean, I had y'all as my audience. So, even some of my target practice was on y'all. So, I appreciate that. But no, it's even my cousin has said on one of the episodes of the podcast before, he was like, no, I am the bully's bully. Mm-hmm. Like, you mess with somebody, especially somebody in my camp, I'm going to mess with you.
It's going down.
Yeah.
It's going down. It will not be tolerated. I will not have it to. I will not have it to.
I so appreciate those stories. I do. So good. And I will point out that you are the second conversation that we're having today, and both of you all had on red glasses.
Come on. Listen, these glasses give me life. There's like little things just to bring joy to the day.
Yes.
And I've had to wear glasses since the first grade.
Really?
Oh, I've been blind a long time.
Okay, because I was fed.
I've been blind for a really long time. And, you know, progressively, the eye strength gets worse and worse and worse.
Yes.
And so I finally was just like, you know what? No, this is just going to be a thing. We're just going to make this fun. And I love these. These are some of my favorite glasses.
Yeah, I'm here for it. I am.
Come on, girl.
Yeah.
I see you had. Yeah. Listen, come on, accessory. Accessorizing.
You know it. So I know since that point in your life, like you've went away to college, you've had children, you've married.
Yeah.
So how does that turn into who you are today? Like what has happened along that journey? And then we're going to go into what's your why.
Okay. So all great questions. So actually, let's start at the just milestones. Like if you were to kind of like look back, or if I'm to look back over my life and just see what were the milestones and the pivotal points that kind of led me here. First of all, being the youngest of 7, right? I have 5 brothers and I have a sister.
Okay.
Right? Large family and blended family.
Okay.
We were doing, the blended family before the Cosbys made it popular on TV. We were trying to figure that thing out. Right, way back when.
Yeah.
And that was a significant milestone, because for me as a little girl, I thought, first of all, my brothers were the most handsome, athletic, coolest cats on the block. Mm-hmm. I still do.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
My sister was the finest, flyest. I still do.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, like, and I grew up in church, of course. I think that was absolutely foundational and salient for my identity and my connection with spirituality. I've journeyed through since then, and I have a language that I use to speak about my relationship with God and with spirit that's very different maybe than what I grew up with. Mm-hmm. But it was really like my starting block, right? And so I think those two things combined were the foundation for me to understand that we choose our family.
Oh, yes.
Because when you're a blended family, and as a child, you don't know all the layered stories that every individual is dealing with or carrying on their own. And as you grow, you have the privilege, especially if the relationships are there, for certain things to be revealed to you. Mm-hmm. And to look back and to know that we continued to and continue to choose each other is really, really sacred to me. And so that's a huge foundation there. And also spiritually, again, you look over your life and you say, what are the things that maybe were difficult to deal with? But at the end of the day, when it's all like said and done, my reliance on intuition mm-hmm. and spirit and like that guidance of knowing that I am because God is like salient. So that's kind of like that first piece.
Yeah.
So then you fast forward and you journey through high school and college, went to Western, mm-hmm. which is where we got connected, yes. and, ran havoc. Just ran it, okay? Woo. And I did my first work here in Kalamazoo. Mm-hmm. So I know your audience is everywhere, but of course you have a love for Benton Harbor. So shout out to Benton Harbor. Yeah. My family, my parents are both from there, but I grew up in Kalamazoo and did my first work there with advocacy and program management and fundraising and leadership development. And I think that was a huge milestone for me, recognizing, one, how powerful organized voices mm-hmm. and intentionality is. And also recognizing how frustrating politics are, or how frustrating it is to want a thing, to see a result, but to be asking someone else to be accountable for it. I think I learned in that milestone the desire to have autonomy and ownership over the results that I create in life. That was significant that I got through organizing. I'm gonna pause for a minute. How you feeling?
Have you been in my pocket like all week?
Says our spirits have never left each other.
Never. Ever.
Okay.
Because even when we talked a couple weeks ago, I just was like, oh my gosh, you have been here this whole time, girl.
The whole time. I have never left you.
Yeah.
So, milestone. Also, imposter syndrome. I was introduced to that concept at that time, mm-hmm. right? Because that is also when I had a very public persona doing a lot of work, both for my sorority, Delta Sigma Theta sorority, Incorporated.
Okay, then.
Okay, for my church, for my nonprofit, all these things, right? But then also confronting that voice inside that is like, oh my God, one day they're going to find out you don't know what you're doing, right? And having to journey through that. So I took that with me when I left to go to Florida, right? And so in Florida, the biggest milestone that I got there was understanding the concept of duality, that humans are not one thing ever. They are always multiple things. They are complicated, and I am one of them. I am one of the humans.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And so I had to learn how to meet myself for really the first time as an adult. You know, you kind of have the narratives of what you're supposed to be, either because they come through your faith or they come through your family or they come through society. But then you get to a place in your adulthood where you have to decide whether or not those narratives are the ones you want to espouse, if they're the ones that are really going to continue to write your story, or if you want to pick up the writer's pen, you know, or the executive director chair. What do they have? They have chairs?
Chair. Yeah. Executive director. Yeah, there's a chair.
See, metaphors sometimes can go to the left. They can go, but you hear where I'm saying.
And I was over like, yeah, no, director's chair. Yeah.
Chair, yeah. Okay, see, spirit moved. And so it was at that time, because I was definitely going through a time of healing and, you know, transformation and re-identification. And so when I left Michigan, I had sold everything that I owned, packed it in my Ford 500. And if it couldn't fit, it wasn't coming. I'm talking about relationship, audit, everything. I'm out. Deuces. There's people to this day that didn't know I lived in Florida. I've been there for 10 years.
Because I didn't know.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Had to just go. Had to go. And so that's when I got into education and coaching and development, because the work really started with me first, figuring out what I needed. And out of that birthed out, you know, my t-shirt line. Out of that rebirthed my poetry. Out of that rebirthed my speaking engagements and the curriculums that I was making for women. It was really all self-healing stuff. And then I recognized, like, oh, other women need this too. Great.
Yeah.
You know, and my husband moved down and we multiplied and had our babies, bought our home, and we've just been taking every day one step at a time to live, love, laugh. And really the result is having a life that I am really proud of. Like really being able to sit back and say, yep, I know what joy feels like. Yeah. I know when I'm out of joy, let me check what's going on in my environment to get back to it. Yeah. Yep, I know what, you know, happiness, and I know what these feelings feel like. I know how to start recognizing when I'm getting off my path and how to bring myself back, right? Because it's not always easy.
It's not.
But it's like recognizing your signs and signals so you know how to get back aligned.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the longest winded answer. I don't even remember the question.
No, it was
milestones.
Yeah.
How did I get here?
Yeah,
that's what's been happening.
Yeah. I want to go back to imposter syndrome because that's something that I feel like we don't talk about a lot. And even as Black women, when we walk into these rooms and we're just like, I don't know. I know I'm good enough, but do I really need to convince everybody else that I'm going to? Because I already believe it. But even talking through that through therapy, he was just saying, if you don't believe it, if you don't own it, like, you know that you speak in story and people are just, if that's not your love language, then that's okay. Because my love language is storytelling.
You do it so well too. Thank you.
But still being able to say, like, no, I'm worth this. Especially when you're going in and you're trying to get these contracts and all of that. It's like, no, I'm pretty sure I'm worth way more than that.
Yeah.
But we psych ourselves out because it's almost like, well, do I need to, am I not good enough? Is that why I'm taking the lower wage? And then you start seeing those changes in your body that it's like, you're tense. I even said when I was driving up here today, I was really tense. And I was tense because I feel like I was rushing and I was taking everything from the weekend to this day. And I'm like, no, this is what you do. This is natural for you. This is what you love. So I think it's really having that conversation about that imposter syndrome because it's present within a lot of us.
It is. And I think we need to like break that thing apart a little bit. You said something that really stood out where, you know, we know that we're this, but then we have this internal conversation. Do we really need to fill in the blank, you know, convince someone else or whatever? Well, I think the reality is that there is a part of not knowing that we're still dealing with internally. Because if the knowing is there, the second question of convincing someone else really is a non-question. I think it comes like in phases though, right? Like there's parts of ourselves. I remember riding in the car with my dad, actually it's ironic. And you know, I had said something, I think it was right around the time where the movement of self-awareness started to even be talked about, you know?
Yeah.
And they were like, you need to get to know yourself. And, you know, Black folks, we would laugh at that. Like, I know who I am. You remember that?
Yeah.
I know my name. I know who I am.
Yeah, I know where I'm from.
I know where I'm from.
Yeah.
Like real basic. But no, do you really?
Mm-hmm.
Do we really?
Mm-hmm.
And I would go as far as to say, no.
Yeah.
Because I'm still discovering me, and I hope to continue to discover me, right?
Yeah.
But it is knowing who we were when we came to this body. It's the knowing that the intelligence that chose us, that chose to show up and manifest in the form of us, came on a mission, came with a purpose. But part of the gag is you got to find it again. You got to travel back home and kind of uncover it. It's kind of like that's the part of the Earth mission, right? Like that's the game.
Yeah.
And so I think that when we're looking for it, when we're seeking it out, when we're trying to pay attention and ask and then be patient enough to receive the answer, we'll get a piece of knowing, like, I know my value is this that I want to give and to contribute to the world, right?
Yeah.
First step is knowing what I want to contribute to the world. But then the second step is believing that it is worthy and enough, whether or not it is validated externally or not. And then the next step is believing it's enough and that it's enough for you to continue doing it once it is validated or not. Then the next step, you see what I'm saying? Like there's constant steps of knowing. And so imposter syndrome, I think, is really just like, it's that cognitive dissonance where we are trying to live into the narrative that someone else gave us while trying to write our own. When we do one or the other, when we either are writing our own and then deciding that that is also the narrative that we're going to require others to also speak on our name, and then there's alignment, there is no imposter syndrome. Right? Or let's say the narrative that others are speaking into you because, you know, my grandmama was speaking to me before I was even ready to receive it. She was like, you go. Like, but am I? So whenever there's misalignment, then that creates that imposter syndrome. But now that I'm starting to accept and receive some of that narrative, because I'm like, no, that serves me. That's what's up. My dean named me Revelation. I was like, ugh, I don't know if I feel that one. But it's real now. I'm over here dropping revelations all over the place. Makes sense. So once, you know what I mean? It's all about choice. It's taking back our autonomy and connectivity, autonomous connectivity. That's what I've been working with. Right? It's like deciding to own our story in a way that is authentic and compassionate and patient and curious and unapologetic, while also giving others permission to believe whatever they want to believe, because their belief about us is not a requirement for us to accept. Right? Duality, remember? It's this, because before I really leaned into this idea of duality, I personally had a very difficult time separating out what other people thought about me and it not being what I had to think about me. Right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we're trying to figure out who we are. And then, you know, if we're validated by external voices, oh, Jomil, you are smart. Oh, Jomil, you're pretty. Oh, Jomil, you're these. Oh, well, obviously it's true. People think that about me. Right? But it's this separation between recognizing that other people have the right and the privilege to have an opinion, and I retain the right and the privilege to either accept it or reject it. And it has nothing to do with my ability to formulate my own. Like they're in relationship to one another.
Yeah.
But this work, this unseen work, is like this dance of defining our own identity and also then the relationship we want to have with other people's identity.
Yeah.
I just went a whole lot of ways with that. But you tell me what you're thinking.
You did. Because I was honestly thinking when you said, you know, what people see of me, because it's a story came to mind is I begged for braces for so long. I think that's when I met you. I probably had braces or was about to get them.
Yeah.
And even when you pass out, you're seeing your pictures. You just want. It's like, okay, these are my friends. You sign your little message on the back, and then someone may give you their senior picture, and then they sign a little message on the back. But senior year, it was like I still felt like I wasn't pretty, and so one guy that shout out to Willie Baker, Willie Baker Sled or Sled Baker. Oh my gosh!
Hey Willie, you know your name.
I about to say don't.
That's
don't
what my mama would say. You know your name.
Like don't get me. He's a newly, but like don't get me. But he was Willie Baker in high school. So he wrote on the back of the pictures something about a beautiful smile, and I was like, I don't know what he's saying because I look in the mirror and I don't see it. But now that I look back, he was like, no, I saw you. I saw your spirit. And that shined through. But for myself, it's like, no, I just, again, you may go back to those feelings of, I didn't feel like I was enough.
Right. Because the disconnect, right? Again, his narrative, his view was that you have a beautiful smile.
Yeah.
I can say the exact same thing. You have a beautiful smile, right? But where that imposter syndrome comes in is when there is conflict in the narrative, when there's a misalignment in the narrative, right? Like we all have our selves or our friends where we're like, man, if you could just see you how I see you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so you have that. So we each individually are walking our own journey and we have the responsibility to ourselves to decide what our story is to ourselves. We think over 60,000 thoughts a minute, I think.
I don't know.
It's a lot.
I'm like, I feel like it's always racing.
We think a lot of thoughts, right? And so we have thoughts that live in our brain and we have thoughts that live in our physical body because the body remembers.
It does.
Water remembers, and we're 90% water, right? So we have muscle memory. We have subconscious, we have all of these narratives that have been learned into our body. And truth be told, because we are divine beings and we are programmed to survive this life, there were circumstances or experiences that we had at some point in our lives and we survived it. And when we survived it, we programmed and downloaded a thought, and that thought had a meaning that said, to survive something like this, the world must mean this. To survive something like this, you must remember that your smile isn't pretty. Why? Because if you think it is and someone tells you it's not, that will cause pain. We want to avoid pain. So just tell yourself it's not pretty. So that way you will have a different feeling than pain. You will have apathy maybe. That's a little bit more palatable. You'll have blah, blah, blah. You see what I'm saying? And so what happened, it's really all about decoding of our stories and where they came from and how they come. But the beautiful part is we have so much power, especially you as a storyteller, like, my God, we have so much power to recode the stories. The key is just the awareness, the willingness to make a decision, and the courage to weather the change of it. Those are the only 3 tools we ever need to rewrite our stories. We got to have that patience and that curiosity. But then imposter syndrome, it'll be there because every level there's another narrative that you got to rewrite. Every level there's another thing you got to confront, you know. So I think it starts to go away when we reach a place of knowing that it says, no matter what I confront, at least I know I can rewrite it if I'm ready. You know?
Yes.
Sis.
I'm like that. One of my favorite emojis now is the one that's blowing smoke. Do you know which one? No, he's really exhaling. He's like, I send that all the time. All the time, and that's just how I feel. You gotta send it to me. Yeah, I do. I might just send it now.
Come on.
I'm like, yeah, because you need to see exactly which one. It's a deep sigh. It's an exhale. It's giving me so much of waiting to exhale. It's like a Loretta Devine when she's, yeah, that's how I feel. So I know we both won't do not disturb, but I did just send it to you so you know. Okay. So, because we went through a lot through there. I feel like that was even like a session in itself.
It was good though. It was good really though. Good. Because it's like, let's not wait to exhale. I feel like, let's just exhale in this moment right now. Like every moment that we get this much connectivity and this much awareness, like honor that bit.
Yeah.
Take that with us and, you know, do whatever we need to do with that. Like that is what I'm constantly reminding myself, because I don't know what it is about the brain that it forgets. So things we already know, we have to keep reminding ourselves. Yeah. We have to anchor down and remind, but that's just the work, right? Like that's just life. And it's making connections like this, listening to podcasts like this. It's, you know, going on retreats. It's doing work. It's doing the work to keep the reminders there so that they can come to us in a way at least that feels good.
Yeah.
So that we continue to refill our cup, refill our energy, you know, and not leave ourselves out of the story, you know. Yeah. So, okay.
Okay. Jamil, what's your why?
To be connected. I think when it all boils down to it, everything that I do, the work and the grind that I have and the passion I have about self-development and about humans and the others and all of that, it is connected to my desire to feel connected to something that matters. You know, so growing up in the church, you know, the one thing you learn is God. Okay, if you don't learn nothing else, God is. Well, who was God's daddy?
That will always be a question we're looking at. Well, who's his daddy?
Well, how did God get? It just is.
Yeah, yes.
But what about it just is? And I remember, so here's this, okay. So when I graduated from college, I took my first international trip.
Okay.
Before that moment, my brain couldn't conceive leaving the country. I didn't even know that that was an available thing.
Yeah.
Like people do that.
Yeah. Often.
Yeah. And when I realized like, oh, that's a thing, I raised the money. I used, you know, I did what I needed to do, and I went and I stayed a couple months and I backpacked across Guatemala. And it was, yes, girl. Yes. Went and learned Spanish. I came back fluent too. What? Yes. I forgot though.
Well, I didn't forget German too, so I get it.
But I remember being so excited because at that time I was doing community organizing. I was doing a lot of advocacy work, and a lot of my work was really fighting the system and oppression and all the things. I had all the energy of a young 20-year-old.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I remember going there so excited because at that time they had just ended the Civil War. I was going to go and I was going to study under some of the individuals who served in their Civil War, right? Who's going to teach me some, like I was just ready to come back with some tools to change the world. I was going to shake it up.
Yeah.
And I went there and I learned some of the most profound stories and experiences of people who were living their lives. And I think the one thing that I learned was humans are humans, no matter where they live. And there was no silver bullet to fix the systemic isms, all of them.
Yeah.
And I remember coming home feeling actually more defeated than when I left. Feeling like, what's the point of trying so hard and navigating? And, you know, you've got Cesar Chavez and you got MLK, and you've got, Angela Davis. You got all of these, individuals who are doing the work, and we look to them and we say, that's who I want to be like if I want to change the world. Yeah. But then you look at the world and you say, man, this world still is a mess. And so I came home with the wind out of my sails. Felt very, very depleted. And I remember, this is why this is still and it's so interesting because I'm not religious, but this book, particularly of the Bible, still today is my favorite. It's Ecclesiastes. That whole book was a story or a journal entry by Solomon writing to himself about this world is a mess. And when you really read it and you hear what he was struggling with, he was struggling with the same stuff I was struggling with some 2,000 years later. Yeah. And he was like, look, man, what's up? You can build an empire and leave it to a fool and then it falls. You can see the seasons change, and they keep coming back again. You can, do all of these things for life. You can get the riches and then you still be unhappy. You could be poor and be miserable. You have too much knowledge and be miserable. You can be a fool and be miserable. Like there's all of these ways to be miserable in this world. But what I learned is what he said is to do good and to remember your connection with the spirit that sent you. And for me, it was the first time that I released the need to have an answer for everything. It was the first time that I released the need to get to the end before going through the middle. Yeah. And I finally was like, you know what? I'm going to just take a step back and know that the sun rose today. It's been here for however long. It's going to be here when I'm gone. Yeah. And if I can learn to keep showing up just like that, without any expectation from anything or anybody else outside of myself, if I can learn how to just get me to do what I need me to do consistently every day, then maybe that's a win. And maybe my spirit will get what it came for. Yeah. And so my why was really born there. It was born out of a need to let go of what doesn't serve me and to find and hold on to everything that will remind me to find joy, that will remind me to find wholeness, and that will keep me connected to the most beautiful and sacred things of this place while I'm here. Yeah. So that's what I'm trying to do every day.
Because we haven't spoke this week other than, just trying to make sure this happened.
It was a work it was a work.
And you're speaking to me so much right now because even working in the community, and it's like you do need that motivation, because when I started working within the community, you have this glass half full outlook. You really do.
And it pour out quick, don't it?
Girl, I was at the bottom of the glass like, was there ever any water here? Was it ever present?
Was I imagining that?
Was I imagining
Did it evaporate or did I pour? Should there be water on the ground?
Did I water the grass? Well, no, the grass is looking a little yellow. It's a little burn. So it's like, how do you continue to be encouraged? And when is that point when you're like, I need to move on to something else? I think that's the season that I'm in right now.
Oh my God. So good. Okay. That part. When is the point when we decide I need to move on to something else? So I was recently, I'm going to go back to stories.
Okay. I'm here
because the narrative matters. The circumstance never changes. The circumstance is the past, the thing that has already happened, the facts of it. Yeah. Not the narrative of it, but the facts of it. Yeah. Other humans are circumstances. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And the future. Okay. These are things that we create thoughts about. Recently, I was reflecting on my own just experiences, right? I'm, going through rebranding and, updating resumes. So I'm like telling my story to myself again.
Yes.
And I realized, I was like, I've worked in every industry. I've done nonprofit.
Yeah.
I've done financial advising. I've worked in education, through enrollment and also in teaching and training and development, program curriculum. I've worked in ed tech, SaaS, project management, marketing. Okay. Yeah. I'm like, dang.
Yeah.
But the crazy part is the narrative that I was telling myself is that I was doing too much, that I was moving around too much, right? Mm-hmm. Because here's the gag. I noticed a theme where I would have an experience and I would go in guns a-blazing, ready to make impact, ready to pour myself into whatever the organization was, master a thing, grow to a certain point, meet disappointing expectations. My expectations are disappointing. Whatever, fill in the blank, whatever the expectations are. We all have them.
Yes.
Our expectations could be to grow into leadership. Our expectations could be to be promoted. Our expectations could be to be seen and validated for your work. It could be whatever. Fill in the blank.
Yeah.
Expectation not met equals disappointment. Okay? So then what I made it mean was that maybe this is not what I should be doing. Let me try something else. So then I go and I try something else. And I taste it and I see like, oh, I like this about that. I like this about that. Insert expectation, not met, equals disappointment. Maybe this isn't for me. Yeah. Let me try something else. and so you do that. Until finally I get to the point where I'm like, wow, the good news is I have acquired so much skill set and so much knowledge about what I am good at, what I'm not so great at, and what I really want to do. So I would not have changed that path at all.
Right.
But what came with it was some insight that showed me a theme that said, okay, when I feel disappointed, is the default behavior to do something else? And if that's the case, how do I deal with the disappointment in my known gift of excellence and purpose path? So let's say you find your purpose path, you're in it. It don't change, but it certainly will bring disappointment.
Yeah.
So then making the decision of how do I want to engage on purpose? What is the story I want to tell myself that will help me to shift that disappointment into another feeling? Because the thing that we don't recognize about feelings, I think as Americans particularly, we are not well equipped for emotional regulation. We de-emphasize and really devalue the benefit of emotion. We call it frivolous, meaningless, all of those things. But really, emotion is kinetic energy. It is movement, right? It's the thing that pushes the physical body into the direction that produces the results. And it's a diagnostic system. And as spirits in this human form, we actually have the divine privilege and access to every feeling on the menu. And every feeling on the menu is equally valid. Anger is valid and it serves a purpose. Disappointment is valid and it serves a purpose.
Yeah.
Joy, all of these things. Because the vibration is lighter, we like to feel happiness.
Yeah.
But grief is a valid and necessary feeling that must be felt, but it's a little bit weightier. It's heavier, right?
Yes.
And so what happens if we don't have emotional regulation tools, which is what I help, women in leadership, because Black women in particular in leadership need more access to emotional regulation tools. If we don't have access to that, then our default often is to avoid it, reject it, suppress it, right? Or not acknowledge it at all. And so then it continues to program the body.
Yes.
And when it programs the body, it's producing results. And then you run into these results and then you have thematic recurrences all across your life and you jump across all these things. And then you finally look up and be like, well, what if I wanted a different result?
Yeah.
Then the only way to get the different result is to go back, confront the feeling, reprogram it, right? And then make the conscious choice of how you want to weather that change. And that's what I help women do all day long. This is what I'm working on. So what you think about that?
Ooh, it's just like you need to just sit in that for a second.
Just
sit in that for a second, because and with you bringing up grief and just the grief work that I've been doing for how long has it been? The first woman we ever followed, one of my good friends, Kendra, who today it makes 19 years without her father.
Wow.
And I had to deal with my own grief in order to help others to identify, like, no, that's grief.
Yes.
That is grief. Like, I'm not a licensed professional. I will refer you to one. But that first is like knowing. It's that awareness of like, no, that's grief, honey.
Yep.
That's
Absolutely.
grief. That hoarding, that's grief. That running from, that's grief that we need to deal with. And I think going through that journey of listening to other people's stories of how they were responding on their grief journey helped me and hopefully helping others. But it will sit right here in that chest and you're like, no, I got to do something about this. I got to do something about it.
Yeah. Because grief is powerful, right? Like when I went to visit my dad's site yesterday, actually. Went and sat out there with him. And the thing about grief is it is a feeling. It is a powerful feeling. And that power can be directed just like any other feeling. Right? Like, we can never forget the power we have as autonomous beings to tap in to our emotions, to allow them to get really curious about them, like genuinely curious. Like, what do you have to teach me? Grief? Because you came to teach me something. What can I get from you? And how do I not let you leave me the same in a way that serves me and this world? You know what I'm saying? It ain't about stopping it. It ain't about rushing it. It ain't about explaining it to anybody else but yourself. It's about tapping in and allowing it to move, because when it moves, it can create the results and the outcomes that we need in this life for ourselves and for our loved ones, because we're just a ball of connectivity. We're all a network. Spirits running through this life trying to figure it out. We just all trying to figure it all out. You know what I'm saying? Every day trying to figure it out, girl. So that's it. Just tap in, girl.
Ooh. So we're getting near the end of our conversation, and we try to do this thing, final thoughts, and not Jerry Springer's final thoughts.
Please, no.
No, not those. Like, we didn't, no. But before closing out this conversation, what do you want people to take away from our conversation? And even if they want to continue the conversation on their own, what would be your final thoughts?
Girl, we talked about so
I know.
much.
No,
we went from the playground, talk about being a bully's bully, to letting go and finding self, honey. I would say, if there's anything that I could offer, and I'm going to offer this to myself, to you, and to everybody else, that we could just pick it up, put it in our pocket. Engage with life with curiosity instead of judgment.
I knew I should have brought my props today.
Just gonna offer that. engage with curiosity instead of judgment. Because if you really think about it, you can't actually be judgmental when you're genuinely curious. You kind of can't, right?
Yeah.
But curiosity, I've learned, is a superpower. When we become genuinely, authentically curious about ourselves, about others, and about this world that we are navigating through, curiosity leads us to conclusions. It leads us to exploration. It leads us to discoveries. It leads us to, you know what I mean? The thing that fills the cup back up.
Yeah.
Like if we can get curious about what's happening in our physical bodies, like, oh, this is stress.
Yes.
This is what this feels like. I wonder what I could do to relieve this. Maybe that would be creating some boundaries for myself. Maybe that would be journaling a little bit and kind of rewriting the story. So if no one else tells me something, I can tell myself something that doesn't make me feel crappy every day. Maybe it looks like going to a chiropractor. Just getting curious about what we're experiencing, who we're experiencing it with, and then opening ourselves up to receive the answers that the divine wants to give us at all times, right? If we can get those two things, curiosity and then openness, I truly believe that the answers we're looking for, they're already present in us. And then we can unlock access to them, and that it will guide us to connecting with the support and the resources that we need to stay filled, to stay energized, to stay powered up so that we can power through on to whatever that next chapter is of our lives. Girl,
so good.
Like, it's the sigh for me.
It is, because it's been tense up in therapy was rescheduled to next week. I was going down the highway literally like this.
Girl, we are here for it. And then again, this right here, like this work, what you're doing, this is therapy right here. This is ministry. This is soul church. This is poetry. This is professional development. This is all of the things. So it was so good being here. I'm so glad you had me and that you made it happen, because
girl,
it was for a minute.
We can't. No, COVID is still present, and no, we can't do this. So
I promise I had that on default.
I saw it.
You saw it, right? Look.
I saw the moon. But that happens if they call back to back.
Y'all can't talk to me.
Yeah, back to back. If they call back to back, it will chime through.
We're not doing that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, they just want access. They just want access.
Denied.
They just. Jomil, I'm so glad you came.
Me too, friend.
Able to have this time together and reconnect. And there's more to come with us.
Oh, facts.
Clearly.
Oh, facts.
Clearly.
Yes.
Ooh, so we're going to wrap up this conversation for the Please Do Tell podcast. What's your why? And Jomil, how can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram and LinkedIn, Jomil Bell. All just like that. JomilBell. Jomil Bell.
All right.
And come and connect with me.
Wait, but you have your own podcast as well, so we want to shout that out too.
The American Griot.
Okay.
theamericangriot.com, and also on Instagram, The American Griot. Griot has a silent T at the end. It's Griot.
All right.
Check it in. It's all about storytelling. It's actually about releasing the burden of Black trauma and finding creative ways to heal and recharge. So come see about us.
Yes. For sure. We all about
Look, come on.
We trying to help. All right, y'all. Until next time, thanks again. But you'll probably be seeing her soon again. We'll be doing something.
Yes.
Something
Thanks.
real dope. All right, y'all. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Woo.
Girl.
5 minutes.